Hello everyone and Happy New Year. Bonne année tout le monde et demain soir, je vais le faire en français. Ce soir, je suis trop fatiguée. So anyways, welcome everybody. Happy New Year to everyone. I thought we'd come in and we'd finish off the year with a bang and start the new year with a much bigger bang. So anyways, I couldn't wait to, um, come and tell you what it is that we've been up to. And hopefully everybody will get on board this time because this is serious. So, anyways, we're going to give people a chance to come in so that we can chit chat with them a little bit. Yes, Happy New Year, Prairie. Um, and the thing is, like I said, we need to finish this year off with a bang, but even a bigger bang to start the new year because 2025 should be extremely interesting. And I thought, okay, well, timing is everything, right? So, because of that, and what's happening in Parliament, we couldn't be at a better time with all the turmoil in Parliament, and then you'll see why tonight. And again, I'm just going to do a little bit of house cleaning and play a little video so that everybody can get a little bit on board here so they know exactly what we're doing. And then I'm going to show you the letter of demand to King Charles and the Governor General, and in regards to removing Justin Trudeau ASAP, as well as putting the King on notice that we're planning on removing not removing, but replacing the crown with the people. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Attention, Canadians. Do you feel disconnected from our current political system? This could be our last chance to take a real legal stand for our rights. It's time to shift the political power to its rightful owners, the Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples of Canada. Dive into our history, understand the need for change, and embark on the quest for true democracy. Are you concerned about our nation's commitment to human rights and self-governance? The Powershift to Freedom aligns with vital treaties and international laws enabling us to claim our rightful place as collective head of state. We advocate legally replacing the Crown, King Charles III, and our partocracy system with a true democracy, the peoples as the true collective head of state with veto power over our governance, to ensure your voice counts more than party interests. When our national collective civil and political rights are respected, your influence on policies will be direct and impactful. Join us on this noble struggle to make every Canadian and Indigenous peoples a meaningful participant in our future as collective head of state, which was legally owed and kept from us since the patriation of our Constitution, an official decolonization from the United Kingdom of 1982. It's time to correct the past of our government's lies and omissions to the people of our great country before it is too late. People 15 years old and over can sign our Canadian People's Referendum at canadianreferendum.ca and unite for our rights as the collective head of state in our Constitution. Together, we can be the example in reshaping Canada's future, not just for us, but for all peoples worldwide, once and for all. Are you ready to be part of this transformative movement? Join the Powershift to Freedom movement by the Canadian People's Union and be part of a bold vision for Canada's future. Visit thecpu.ca for more details. Embrace and face the change required on your part to shape our future.
And I'm back. Okay, so yes, again, everybody, Happy New Year. So anyways, Please forgive me. I've been up straight for 2 days now. Today was a little bit rough for a while, and then I got my second wind, and now I guess I'm on my third wind. So if I screw up a little bit, please forgive me, but hopefully we'll get this done right. And I just want to make sure that I was on the right page here. Yes. So we're going to move on to exactly show you what I've been up to and in addressing the crown, King Charles, and the Governor General in regards to what's been happening in government, and that we're going to be proceeding with placing the people as the head of state. So hopefully everybody will be able to participate and actually um, do right by Canadians and your families, because this is going to be historical. This has never been done. Okay. And so it's going to get very interesting. So, anyways, hang on here. I'm just trying to find how come this is not okay. There we go. And here we go. Share. Okay, hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to make sure that yes, you can. Actually, it's not big enough. I'm just going to make it bigger. Let me get rid of this here and make it bigger for you. Okay, there we go. And yes, we can see it, but still not big enough. Okay, hang on. Okay, how am I going to make this bigger? I got to be able to read it. There we go. Okay, that's as big as I can get it, everyone. Hopefully you can see it good enough. Yeah, you should be able to. And I'm just going to take myself out of the picture here. There we go. Okay. So this is an official legal notice of intent and demand letter, which includes our referendum. So I'm just going to get back to here so I can read this. Okay, so official legal notice of intent and demand letter finalizing the partial constitutional decolonization, otherwise known as patriation from the United Kingdom and the imperial crown, His Majesty King Charles III, proclaimed by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on April 17th, 1982. And today's date, December 31st, 2024. And this is why I want to make sure that I got this done today, because it's going to be sent shortly after I'm done doing this live stream to different places. And this also includes by video, registered letter, email, or fax. So either way, how they're going to get it, they're also going to have to be notified through a legal, how do we call that, a legal notice, as well as through a registered mail. And hopefully we'll be able to get a sheriff to deliver this time. Last time they didn't accept our letter because of COVID. So to His Majesty King Charles III, Head of State of Canada, and the Governor General of Canada, Her Excellency Mary Simon. Your Majesty and Excellency, we hope to find you well and that your holidays were more forthcoming and enjoyable than what we are facing in Canada. We would like to thank you both in advance for your patience and understanding, given the reasons for the initiation of this official notice and demand letter. I am Nicole Lebrassard, a legal researcher with over 15 years of experience in addition to pharmaceutical market research for 7 years prior. I proudly serve as the founder and CEO of the Canadian People's Union, the CPU, since 2017. Unlike any other organization, the CPU represents informed Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples from coast to coast. Our goal is simple yet profound: to challenge the status quo and advocate for the reclamation of our national, collective, civil, and political rights. A legacy eroded by political and judicial oversight, global pressures, and policy interference by our parliamentarians and governments, including the provincial premiers, in eroding our rights. Given the present dire situation created by the Canadian Prime Minister's government and within Parliament itself, it was important to proceed with this letter. The problems facing Canada is the demise of Parliament, which has created a constitutional crisis regarding the mismanagement of our financial administrations. The circumvention of constitutional procedures by the government of their constitutional responsibility is further detrimental to the requirement of peace, order, and good government, the POGG. Their actions are destroying the dignity of the Crown, which affects not only the Crown in Parliament, but both of you directly. To protect the dignity of the Crown, your immediate intervention is required so that our people and country can start to repair the damages that the Justin Trudeau's Liberals and the NDP have created. The corruption within Parliament could have been averted long ago if the proper actions had been taken by launching criminal investigations and for the previous Governor General to have removed the Liberals and installed a caretaker government in the interim for a new election by taking the same action of the Governor General, Lord Kerr, to preserve the dignity of the Crown in Australia in 1975. Either way, Canadians can no longer wait for Parliament to operate properly, since the corruption we are witnessing will be virtually impossible to fix. Hence, this letter to you both and to our parliamentarians, along with the rest of the Canadian population and international bodies. Furthermore, because of the lies and omissions produced by our government since 1982 and the further abuse of power by Parliament and the provincial and municipal legislatures, we, the Canadian People's Union, Freedom 2017, and Peoples of Canada have initiated and officially launched our 42-year overdue People's Referendum. This has been denied to us since the partial patriation of the British North America BNA Act 1867 and the Canada Act 1982 on April 17th, 1982. The legal initiation of this referendum is undertaken through our collective and personal rights within the International Bill of Human Rights and Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted and proclaimed by General Assembly Resolution 217, the 10th of December, 1948. The International Covenant on Political Rights, adopted and opened for signature, ratification, and accession by General Assembly Resolution 2200, the 16th of December, 1966, entry into force the 23rd of March, 1976, in accordance with Article 49, ratified by Canada and the United Kingdom in 1976. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, adopted and open for signature, ratification, and accession by General Assembly Resolution 2200A of the 16th of December, 1966, entry into force the 3rd of January, 1976, in accordance with Article 27, ratified by Canada and the United Kingdom in 1976, as well as the Syracuse Principles, non-derogation of rights. The People's Referendum and Demand document follows. And then this is the referendum document that we've designed. So I'm not going to go through it because you're going to be able to see that there's also a video that reads it all, which we're going to be playing shortly. So this is basically the letter. Okay, so I'm going to get to the end here. So this is what the Governor General and everybody is getting, including the King, because he has to be warned as well. So I'm going to get just to the bottom here. It's a long one, but that's why it's a demand letter, and how we are protected by our rights in order to be able to do this, so that there will be no arguments. So here I've signed it myself as the Canadian People's Union CEO. And then our disclaimer: the texts included therein do not constitute any legal advice. The CPU, Canadian People's Union, is a civil and political rights union of Canadian Indigenous peoples activating their collective and personal rights to personal self-determination and self-governance. according to the national and international laws in force and whose rights are duly protected. Please note that their representatives act as researchers only, and that's exactly what we are. So, and this is our not-for-profit number, and it will be CC'd to all of these people. So I'm going to just go back and stop sharing this. Okay. And come back to you here. So now we're going to move on to our little video that I've put together in the middle of the night. And boy, it was long so that we can have this voiceover. So please bear with me here. I'm just going to go and retrieve it. And then after that, we'll have a discussion, because in reality, with the CPU, what we are doing is actually finalizing the decolonization of 1982, which Trudeau, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, made sure that the people never knew that at that time what happens when the Queen said now Canadians can govern themselves accordingly. The UK has been waited for 15 years to see what we were going to do, if we were going to keep them as the head of state, or put somebody else in there, or figure things out on our own. But we don't need to become a republic and place a president there, because it doesn't matter whether you've got the monarchy or somebody, some Joe Blow becoming our president or whatever. They still, if we're not smart, and what happened worldwide is that when countries decolonized, they retained representative democracy. Okay, and representative democracy, it is what steals our rights. So there's a long story attached to that, but we don't need to worry about provinces, what powers they have or don't have. The people have the power, and it's for us to take it. And now we have our chance to take it once and for all. Okay, like I said,
the people as the collective head of state. Constitutional Referendum 1982 to 2024 binding living document. November 3, 2024. Referendum objective. The Canadian government has had an obligation to hold a nationwide constitutional referendum for its citizens, predating the Canada Act 1982 request by the Parliament and Senate to the United Kingdom, which only partially patriated the Constitution on April 17, 1982. The UK Commonwealth Foreign Affairs stated that due to the government not having held a referendum prior to the constitutional patriation from the UK, the Imperial Parliament could not proceed as Trudeau had hoped with the patriation. Instead, Pierre Elliott Trudeau was obliged to accept post-patriation amendments that have yet to be fulfilled 42 years later, and kept it from the people to this day. Constitutional amendments can only be accepted by the Imperial Parliament, in accordance with the wishes of the people of the Dominion as a whole, not at either federal or provincial bidding. Decolonization, patriation of the 1982 constitutional coup d'etat should have given complete independence and the full power to the people to choose what we decide together in regard to our own country. This was never finalized and served as a parliamentary and provincial inside coup d'etat against the peoples of Canada. This coup d'etat was further extended as of April 17, 1997, to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and now, to His Majesty King Charles III, as Canada's heads of state. Therefore, the Canadian people hold the prerogative to rectify the purported 1982 coup d'etat, which allegedly undermined the constitutional patriation of the Canada Act 1982, orchestrated by Pierre Elliott Trudeau's Liberal government, Parliament, Senate, and the provincial premiers. The Canadian government enacted the legislation without securing a mandatory referendum from affected Canadians regarding keeping the monarchy or the Canada Act, 1982. Because we were not given a referendum on these issues, and on how we wanted to govern ourselves, the Canada Act 1982 was enforced without our consent, thus maintaining the Crown and Parliament's supremacy over the people. Foreseeing democracy, parliamentary democracy, as the only legitimate outcome, cannot truly be considered a free act of self-determination. The Canadian government has repeatedly violated the international legal instruments it pledged to uphold, undermining the rights and dignity of all Canadians. Regrettably, previous governments have also committed numerous human rights abuses since 1982, with the situation worsening significantly in the past 4 years. In a statement made during the parliamentary meetings, Sir B. Brain stated that the Canada Bill sent to the UK by the Canadian government, that certain parts of the Charter breached the international agreements that both Canada and the UK had ratified. There's much more shocking information within the Hansards that indicates that a coup d'etat was committed against us by our own government and by every other government for the past 42 years since. The evidence suggests a systematic undermining of democratic processes by governmental authorities over the past 4 decades. See discussions in UK Parliament regarding Canada Bill 1982. Canada Bill Hansard UK House of Commons debate February 17, 1982 Volume 18 292-373. My honourable friend the member for Essex, South East, Sir B. Brain, has shown clearly and cogently how certain parts of that charter offend and infringe 2 international agreements to which we are signatories, Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Articles 1 and 27 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Some of us may not wish to be signatories to those 2 agreements, but we are bound by them. So long as we choose to be fettered by those covenants, they remain shackles upon the House, and we should recoil from any legislation that infringes upon them. To do otherwise would be dishonorable, even disreputable. It is, of course, true that Canada is also a signatory to both agreements, but whether she decides to infringe them is not a matter for us. 2 wrongs cannot make a right. The Indian nations are justified in questioning the bona fides of the Canadian Prime Minister. I say that with great regret. As long ago as 1969, he spoke in Vancouver about the need to bring to an end the historic treaty rights of the Indian peoples, and spoke of how in due course, those rights must be extinguished. He refuses even now to sit at the conference table to discuss and define what those rights are. He will not do so until the new Constitution of Canada is established, and at that stage, he will have the power to override the Indians. That is our dilemma. We do not wish to offend Canada, but if we pass the bill in its present form, we shall infringe 2 international agreements and at the same time, disregard the rights of the Indian nations given under 83 treaties between them and the British sovereign. For that reason, I shall find it difficult to support the bill. People's Referendum Purpose. This referendum is a legally binding living agreement between the signatories to achieve the required 51% of Canadians being in agreement with this referendum within a minimum of 7 provinces to reach a fair majority of our citizens. This referendum is to be combined in conjunction with the Indigenous and Civil Unified Sovereign Enactment, Citizens' Convention of Consent to Collective Self-Determination and Self-Governance, within a combined direct democracy system of governance. Dishonor of the dignity of the Crown, abuse of power and breach of trust. No confidence in the Crown, the Canadian government, Parliament, provincial legislatures, and Senate. The public has grown increasingly distrustful of the government, legislators, and the Senate due to alleged corruption, disregard for citizens' rights, and the mishandling of public funds and health care. The Governor-General had the full rights to remove Justin Trudeau the minute allegations of corruption were made. A Prime Minister can be removed even if he has the support of the House, if his actions harm the dignity of the Crown, if the people or the Governor-General have lost confidence, or if he has breached the constitutional order. The Australian Governor-General dismissed the Prime Minister, who had full support of the House in 1975, by using the personal reserve power of the Crown, of which the Queen was aware of, but only after the fact, and was pleased with his judgment in preserving the Crown in Australia. Please see the Palace letters released in 2020 in Australia regarding the reserved personal powers of the Governor-General and the Crown. Constitutional lawyers will have to revise all the private letters of the Queen and Governor-Generals of the realms, otherwise everything they think to be correct regarding the reserved powers of the Crown will be proven to be wrong. Whereas, we the Canadian citizens find it necessary to move forward with this referendum to preserve the life of our nation in all aspects, given the current state of governance, and the persistent misuse of authority, abuse of power, as well as the continued disregard for our fundamental rights. The will of the people as a whole. It is undeniable that any people entitled to the right to self-determination must exercise it freely, whether through a plebiscite, referendum, or some other agreed procedure. We as a people have the right to proceed with this referendum, as long as the majority of the Canadian citizens agree to this referendum format, and all it encompasses, as our agreed-upon procedure of choice and free expression by signing this document. Representativeness of the government, in the context of the right to self-determination, is that the government and the system of government is not imposed on the population of a state, but that it is based on the consent or assented by the population, and in that sense is representative of the will of the people, regardless of the forms or methods by which the consent or assent is freely expressed. UK colonization of Canada 1867 to 2024. Governance in Canada has always been imposed on the people, such as we have seen in 1982 with the misleading partial decolonization, patriation, of the British North America Act 1867 and Canada Act 1982. A people cannot give free expression when the truth is inundated through lies, cover-ups, and omission by the very governments they entrust. Because of these lies and omissions, Canadians and the Indigenous peoples are still a constitutional colony of the Imperial Crown and Parliament, whereas the United Kingdom Parliament still hold the only authority to amend our Constitution Act 1867 and the Canada Act 1982, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Form of government. International law does not impose a restriction on the people's choice as to the form of government, as long as the exercise of that choice takes place in a free manner, without any external influence or coercion. Neither does it say that a government is supreme and has the final say over a people. Therefore, we, the undersigned Canadian citizens, freely agree to initiate our collective and personal civil and political rights, including all other rights we possess, to hold this referendum by we, the peoples of Canada, without the interference or hindrance by the Canadian federal, provincial or municipal governments or the courts, through our recognized legal rights, binding on Canada and the United Kingdom to formally remove King Charles III as Canada's head of state, constituting a collective sovereign people as a whole, as the collective head of state within Canada, being the lawful collective and legal holders of its collective corporations, sole and corporation aggregates, and transferring to the people all powers of the Crown, including military and personal reserve powers, prerogatives, etc. Elevating Canadians from a neo-colonial parliamentary democracy system to a combined parliamentary and direct democracy system of governance in Canada, within the required amount of time necessary to implement the changes, correcting our Constitution as need be, removing unconstitutional laws neglecting our rights, and those made in errors and omissions. Establish the rights of the people to veto legislation prior to royal assent by the Governor-General and Lieutenant Governors, number of veto votes required to be determined. Honoring Indigenous treaties, rights and responsibility. Maintaining and safeguarding all Indigenous treaties, rights, governance responsibilities and obligations held in perpetuity to them, that were transferred to Canada from the Crown. Honoring Canadian and Indigenous peoples on each side of the two-row wampum and silver covenant chain treaties, by creating seats for the Indigenous peoples in Parliament regarding Indigenous issues. We further undertake constitutional initiatives to placing the Governor-General as the Canadian people's representative, under the complete authority of the people as head of state. Require that the offices of the Governor-General, Attorney General and Lieutenant Governors be chosen through the electoral process. We, the undersigned, agree that, for the sake of preserving the life of our nation, our economy, our children and our future, hereby formally notify the Governor-General that we do not support the numerous dishonorable and disreputable breaches of trust committed by Parliament and legislatures, the questionable financial abuse of the money votes for $202.75 billion of taxpayer funds voted in by Parliament for the year 2024-2025. Policy mismanagement and illicit acts through the creation of unconstitutional bills that override the international binding agreements the Parliament has dishonored by criminally disregarding them since 1976. The funding of wars and genocide that is subjecting all Canadians at risk from internal and external retaliation without our consent. FYI, Crown responsibility and liability. The responsibility of the head of state is to maintain the honor and dignity of the Crown, and not allow the further demise of the Crown through the actions of our own politicians in government, who have become the real threat to the national security and stability of our nation. Adhering to the rule of law, international law, and human rights is essential, as maintaining a functioning government is crucial to avoid plunging the country into further turmoil. Statutes of Rome command responsibility and failure to act. Responsibility of civilian superiors. Canada removed all immunity for Canadian officials. by the Canadian government and the provinces implementing the provincial emergency measures, and then, the Unconstitutional, Illegal, Emergency Measures Act, without consideration to our non-derogation of rights, placed International Bill of Human Rights protected Canadian convoy protesters in an armed conflict with the RCMP and police. These may qualify for internal crimes against humanity, and the Ministry of Defence Medical Countermeasures Consortium within our healthcare system connected to other countries could place all Canadian military, medical personnel and parliamentarians, including the Governor-General and the Head of State, King Charles III, in jeopardy of international law crimes against humanity and human rights abuses due to the consortium's action. The Canada, UK, Australia and USA consortium's actions include the creation along with Canada dual-use potential gain-of-function viruses since 2001. Note, a hierarchical superior in a non-military relationship with subordinates is criminally responsible for crimes within the jurisdiction of International Criminal Court committed by subordinates under his effective authority and control, where he knew or consciously disregarded information which clearly indicated that the subordinates were committing or about to commit such crimes. The crimes concerned activities that were within his effective responsibility and control, and he failed to take all necessary and reasonable measures within his power to prevent or repress their commission or to submit the matter to the competent authorities for investigation and prosecution. Urgent demands to the Governor-General. The Governor-General, as the guardian of our Constitution, must swiftly uphold peace, order, and good governance, POGG, to safeguard our nation's security, finances, dignity, and prosperity through issuing by formal proclamation that our International Bill of Human Rights be immediately acknowledged and enforced by her title and office regarding her duties to the people in this country above governance. To remove the Liberal government. To immediately command that a caretaker government be put in place. To call for an immediate election. Enforce the investigations of possible fraud, conflicts of interest and subverting policy committed by Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland and other ministers within the Liberal cabinet and Parliament. The Governor-General should postpone the royal assent of all pending bills until a new Attorney General and Minister of Justice has been appointed who will uphold our International Bill of Human Rights, the Syracuse Principles, and ensure the constitutionality of the legislation before its enactment, as our International Bill of Human Rights is inherent in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. To ensure that the bills are void of words that do not conform to the rule of law, which allow a government to manipulate the meaning, example. Reasonable is found over 2,000 times in the statutes. These are words that are incapable of any fixed meaning because they denote a quality that is inherently subjective. Urgent demands to parliamentarians and senators. To immediately refrain from allowing unconstitutional bills from moving forward, and to repeal all unconstitutional bills passed in the last 5 years and previously, that infringe upon our International Bill of Human Rights and non-derogation rights binding on Canada and the UK. To review the infringement of these rights, which would also render most of the legislation that has passed through Parliament, the provincial legislatures and municipal bylaws unconstitutional. To review and rectify all policies and actions undertaken within government agencies' unlawful mandates during the pandemic that infringed on our non-derogable rights, would also render many of the court judgments of the last 4 years in error of national and international law. To review penalties and fines needlessly charged to the public by all levels of governance and policing across the country. To pay attention by reading the UK Hansard statements made by members of the UK Parliament in 1982 in regard to the people's full rights. To become educated in the entire International Bill of Human Rights before allowing the passing of any bills through Parliament and Senate. This Canadian Citizens' Referendum is initiated through our legally protected rights ratified by Canada and the United Kingdom 1948 to 1976. Canadian citizens exercising our collective civil and political rights to self-determination and self-governance within the International Bill of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Adopted and proclaimed by General Assembly Resolution 217A, 3, of December 10, 1948. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Adopted and open for signature, ratification and accession by General Assembly Resolution 2200A, 21, of December 16, 1966. Entry into force, March 23, 1976, in accordance with Article 49, ratified by Canada and the United Kingdom 1976. The International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Adopted and open for signature, ratification and accession by General Assembly Resolution 2200A, 21, of December 16, 1966. Entry into force, January 3, 1976, in accordance with Article 27, ratified by Canada and the United Kingdom 1976. The Siracusa Principles, non-derogation of rights. We as a people have lost all confidence in our government, parliamentarians, and the provincial legislatures, regarding the alleged corruption that has transpired in the malfeasant ignorance of our rights, the rule of law and misuse of our funds. The Governor-General had the full rights to remove Justin Trudeau the minute allegations of corruption were made. Instead, we are witnessing the full demise of the honor and dignity of the Crown towards their fiduciary duty and responsibility to the people. Therefore, we the Canadian citizens find it necessary to move forward with this referendum to remove and replace King Charles III as our head of state, with the Canadian peoples as the collective head of state, corporation sole and corporation aggregate, represented by an elected Governor-General, given the current state of Canadian governance, and the persistent misuse of authority, abuse of power, as well as the continued disregard for our fundamental rights. ICCPR, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Entry into force, March 23, 1976, in accordance with Article 49. Preamble. The states parties to the present covenant. Considering that, in accordance with the principles proclaimed in the Charter of the United Nations, recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice and peace in the world. Recognizing that these rights derive from the inherent dignity of the human person. Recognizing that, in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the ideal of free human beings enjoying civil and political freedom and freedom from fear and want can only be achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his civil and political rights, as well as his economic, social and cultural rights. Considering the obligation of states under the Charter of the United Nations to promote universal respect for, and observance of, human rights and freedoms. Realizing that the individual, having duties to other individuals and to the community to which he belongs, is under a responsibility to strive for the promotion and observance of the rights recognized in the present covenant, agree upon the following articles. Part 1, Article 1. 1. All peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social and cultural development. 2. All peoples may, for their own ends, freely dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice to any obligations arising out of international economic cooperation, based upon the principle of mutual benefit and international law. In no case may a people be deprived of its own means of subsistence. 3. The states parties to the present covenant, including those having responsibility for the administration of non-self-governing and trust territories, shall promote the realization of the right of self-determination, and shall respect that right, in conformity with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations. Part 2, Article 2. 1. Each state party to the present covenant undertakes to respect and to ensure to all individuals within its territory and subject to its jurisdiction the rights recognized in the present covenant, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status. 2. Were not already provided for by existing legislative or other measures, each state party to the present covenant undertakes to take the necessary steps, in accordance with its constitutional processes and with the provisions of the present covenant, to adopt such laws or other measures as may be necessary to give effect to the rights recognized in the present covenant. Point 3. Each state party to the present covenant undertakes a. To ensure that any person whose rights or freedoms as herein recognized are violated shall have an effective remedy, notwithstanding that the violation has been committed by persons acting in an official capacity. B. To ensure that any person claiming such a remedy shall have his right thereto determined by competent judicial, administrative, or legislative authorities, or by any other competent authority provided for by the legal system of the state, and to develop the possibilities of judicial remedy. C. To ensure that the competent authorities shall enforce such remedies when granted. Article 3. The states parties to the present covenant undertake to ensure the equal right of men and women to the enjoyment of all civil and political rights set forth in the present covenant. Article 4. 1. In time of public emergency which threatens the life of the nation and the existence of which is officially proclaimed, the states parties to the present covenant may take measures derogating from their obligations under the present covenant, to the extent strictly required by the exigencies of the situation, provided that such measures are not inconsistent with their other obligations under international law, and do not involve discrimination solely on the ground of race, color, sex, language, religion, or social origin. 2. No derogation from Articles 6, 7, 8, paragraphs 1 and 2, 11, 15, the 16th and the 18th of may be made under this provision. 3. Any state party to the present covenant availing itself of the right of derogation shall immediately inform the other states parties to the present covenant, through the intermediary of the Secretary-General of the United Nations, of the provisions from which it has derogated and of the reasons by which it was actuated. A further communication shall be made, through the same intermediary, on the date on which it terminates such derogation. Article 5. 1. Nothing in the present covenant may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms recognized herein or at their limitation to a greater extent than is provided for in the present covenant. 2. There shall be no restriction upon or derogation from any of the fundamental human rights recognized or existing in any state party to the present covenant pursuant to law, conventions, regulations, or custom on the pretext that the present covenant does not recognize such rights or that it recognizes them to a lesser extent. See full document. In the court of public opinion, truth and common sense will prevail. To be forwarded to His Majesty King Charles III, the United Kingdom Imperial Parliament, the Governor-General of Canada, Provincial Lieutenant Governors, the Parliament of Canada Parliamentarians, the Senators, the Provincial Premiers, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, the Organization of American States, OAS, the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, all United Nations International Bill of Human Rights, Vienna Convention, and the statutes of Rome's signatory countries. Nicole Leberser, CEO, the Canadian People's Union. Disclaimer: the texts included therein do not constitute any legal advice. The CPU. Canadian People's Union is a civil and political rights union of Canadian and Indigenous peoples, activating their collective and personal rights to personal self-determination and self-governance, according to the national and international laws in force, and whose rights are duly protected. Please note that their representatives act as researchers only.
Okay, and that's it. So, anyways, that little one is about 27 minutes. I still have to kind of tweak it a little bit, but it would be okay as it is, because it doesn't, even if we were to agree on a napkin and pass that around, it would still be legal because it's what we agree between each other to sign and to go ahead and accept. So anyways, this is why all of this is created that way. You'll never see another referendum like that in your life, I think, or, but it's not the same type of referendum, but it's one with a demand letter in there to specify that these are our rights and this is what the Governor General has to do. Because really the crown is supposed to protect our Constitution for the people. Okay. So the Governor General is, how can I say, is indebted to us and not really the government. But what they've been doing over time And worldwide is that they took over through, like I said earlier, representative democracy. And then within the constitutions, well, they make all kinds of laws, to be able to manipulate the Constitution and the people, or even the Governor General herself. So I know that King Charles knows exactly what happened in 1975 with Lord Kerr in Australia, and that all comes back to say that comes back to their personal reserve powers. And, a lot of the constitutional lawyers don't even talk about it, don't even know it. Even to my surprise, a constitutional lawyer in Australia wasn't even talking about these letters, but they only came out in 2020. So maybe he doesn't even know about it because they're keeping it hush hush, So it's unbelievable what they don't want you to know. And if everybody knew about the real, the real rights of the crown, uh, even though they say, oh, well, they're limited, no. If you start a company and you place your board of directors and your CEO and everybody in there, and then all of a sudden they're trashing the place, you have the right to fire them all. Okay. It's your company, not theirs. So same thing here. Okay. So if we're going to take our rights, we're going to have to work for it, because the governments have made sure not to give us our rights. And even when 80 countries decolonized, they all got taken for a ride by the existing governance that was in there and the new ones coming in, so that they can control the people and all of the natural resources. So we're doing this different. It's never been done on this planet other than through the Haudenosaunee, and the Great Law. But even in France, when they became free, they still didn't have all the powers they were supposed to have. The United States, the people are not free there either. They think they are. So it's all a perception. And now I think it's time to be done with perception. If they're going to throw the law at us, we're going to throw it right back the proper way, do things the proper way. And, even in our system of government right now, we don't need to become a republic. We can make up whatever kind of governance we want and call it whatever, and mind you, you're going to find out through the internet that they've always tried to dissuade the people from going ahead to do what we're trying to do, is put the people in power with at least, we're going to have a committee at some point, established, and then people will have to take turns all the way down to your communities. So this is not going to be easy, people. You want your power, you want your freedom. It's going to cost in blood, sweat, and tears. And right now, to be able to, what I've done is I want to bring to you today was the fact that now I can send this off to the Governor General's emails. But mind you, when we're sending off emails to the government, the Supreme Court has determined that if you want to make a letter legal, it has to be followed with a registered letter. So just sending out an email is just putting them on notice, and then they can do whatever they want, and there's nothing you can legally do against them. They don't have to listen. But we have to be able to prove that we tried to reach them. And this is how we do this. Like, we even went in 2022 to Parliament Hill. We spent the weekend there. We had a license for Parliament Hill. So they all knew what we were doing there, what we were about, but they try to ignore us, right? And as long as people don't follow through, and, if the only way we're going to be able to scare them is for all the Canadians to decide, oh, yeah, I'm a shareholder of Canada. Yeah, you are. You are richer and more powerful than you know. And we can, if we do a great job, and watching our parliamentarians and making sure that we have a recourse. So what we're asking is not that much. It's just about placing the people in power and giving us veto power over anything we might decide to say, hey, we don't agree with this. Okay. And everybody would have to be involved at that point, because we each have the right to one vote share on everything that happens in Canada. And that's legal. but they don't want us to do that. And that's why in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, when you talk about our charter, you have to see what is missing from there. And there's a lot that is missing that should have been in there. So we're allowed to adopt the International Bill of Human Rights, along with our civil and political rights and cultural rights and all that, because they're already in our in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms anyway. But Canada kind of hid that and didn't want anybody to know. So, and then they told the lawyers, well, in Canada, we don't recognize international law, which is bogus. 1982, they found out that, yes, they were bound by it. But if Trudeau wanted to go against international law, then the UK was going to wash their hands of it, because they weren't responsible. It's up to the Canadians to do our jobs and to, make sure that our governments are acting properly. So, but if nobody knows, then, so the Crown stayed in power for 42 years because the government did not want to give us the power in our hands. So that's every government ever since 1982 and even before that. So now it's up to us. We need to be able to really build up fundraising to be able to get to the people. But really, by law, international law, the government should be paying for all this. And eventually they will have to. But it all depends on how loud we speak. Okay. And because now your next protests should be in regards to your rights, okay, as the collective head of state. So there's nothing that stops us from determining that we are the collective head of state, because the minute that you decolonize, it falls into the hands of the people. And that's what was supposed to happen in 1982. And that's why the Queen said now Canadians can govern themselves accordingly. Okay, and then they gave Canada 15 years to get it done. So what we're trying to do is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while. But at least the government, we need to force the government to set up either a royal commission or even the Governor General or King Charles himself, if he doesn't want to, be charged with all kinds of crimes that his government has done. And this is why in there I put down that, and I didn't write the year that this was done, but in 2001, when they started establishing the Criminal Court of Justice, the Criminal Court of the ICC, International Criminal Court, I should say. We are the ones that paid for that, okay, which most people don't know. And it's our lawyers that worked on that. So anyways, Chrétien was really cocky and says, oh, we can take the immunity out, but they're trying to make it look like, oh, no, it's only in case of military stuff. But over the years, that changed, okay? And now it's directly, it involves all of the personnel in government. So whoever's up at the top is responsible for what's happening at the bottom, but there are different circumstances depending what it is, if they really didn't know, and if they did know and they didn't stop it. And this is why, the reason why I wrote everything this way is because now when the parliamentarians return to Parliament, guaranteed by the end of the week, they will have received their copy in their emails that we will first send to them, and fax everywhere. But now we also need to follow through with a legal format, which is going to cost us an arm and a leg. So we need people to help out and to donate as much as you can. But for us, we would rather have memberships. So if you can become a CPU member, this is where, the good stuff happens, is in between our members and what we do inside of our community, because we have our own private community in case we get blocked many more times off of Facebook and everywhere else. We've been shadow banned like there's no tomorrow, and we need to be able to make sure that we had a spot for all of our people and whoever's going to be involved in, making this change happen. So we need to have a place where we can hold a lot of people, where we can have a lot of traffic, and we can make sure that the government can't shut us down. you know, as much as they'd want to. So this way, we made sure that everything was okay. And this is why we're walking away really from Facebook and social media, but not because we don't want to, but it's because we're shadow banned and we're not getting anywhere. So we need to be able to have people really want to participate, really give it a good go, because this is the only chance we're going to have to do this. And if other countries follow suit, well, then there's more power to us, right? And but it can be done. It all depends how much the people get involved, how much the people are willing to sacrifice. If everybody gave $1, we'd be laughing, okay? And we'd have more than enough to be able to do things. But there's a few things that have to that require, again, lawyers to be able to do filings, and it's just unbelievable. So we have to make everything legal, and legal costs. There are always costs involved when it comes to legal. So right now, the best that we can do is, try to hound our parliamentarians, let them know, hey, this is what you guys are going to have to deal with, and hopefully it could make a really, really big impact before September. I keep saying September, before January 27th, when Parliament resumes. But in the meantime, we can really make a big splash. So we need everybody involved, to be able to say, hey, forward this to your MPs, your mayors, your councillors, your friends, everybody humanly possible. We need signatures. We don't even have 1,000 signatures. So it was like, wow, okay, they're not going to be very scared of us, right? But it doesn't matter, because it's worth sending all of that information so that they can know that, yes, some Canadians are awake, some Canadians know their rights. And, if all goes well, we've got them. They can't undo this. If Canadian citizens want it, they'll have no choice. Okay. Mind you, unless they really go hog wild and really try to do it a full on dictatorship. So again, we just need to keep going, keep fighting, and saying, hey, getting people to be educated, though, because you need to know the ins and out of this. And it seems, how can I say, it's not that hard. All we need is for them to change a certain area. We don't even have to ask England. As long as we have enough people, that's what matters. And England was waiting anyways for us to be able to get our referendum, which Trudeau and Mulroney never came through with, or anybody else since. So, and on purpose. Okay. So when you've seen the proof, the other video that I've shown everybody, where I have all of the proof, and that, yes, the UK is still changing the BNA Act. So what happens with this constitution? Is it really feasible? Yeah, it is, because it's still recognized here and at the international level, because the people have not contested it, where we have over 51% of the population saying, okay, it's enough. So what I didn't do in this letter was to show that a lot of people, in the surveys, actually, they're almost up to 80% now, that people want to see the crown removed from Canada. But the thing is everybody thinks that, oh, well, just put a president in there, and then you're still going to be in the same spot, because you'll have no rights either. So we want to make sure that we have our rights, okay? And this is why we have to be tenacious in making sure that we keep saying, hey, don't accept anything else but the people as the collective head of state, or with veto power over what the government does, because right now we have no rights. They tell us we have rights, but they can take them away at any second. Okay, what they're doing is they're giving us benefits. Your pension fund, you've paid into that. Oh, now you're going to get a benefit from the government. So, and before I become Brenda, the 51st state, first of all, Trump can talk all he wants, but he can't become the 51st state. And the Indigenous peoples will never agree to it. And neither will I and other Canadians, because why should we allow them to have our natural resources? Anybody who wants to become part of the 51st state, I will gladly go and help them move, okay? I will gladly go and help them move their, pack up their stuff. They want me to pack their stuff. I'll go and pack their stuff. Hey, you want to become part of the United States? Go to it. Me, I would rather die. I love my country. I think it has great potential. We just need to clean it up. But we need Canadian citizens to have balls instead of wanting to run away to the United States. Okay? That's people with no balls. So for me, if the men of this country don't have balls, I think the women have enough for them. Okay? So it's up to us to make the change happen. It's up to us to work at it. It's up to everybody to do their part for the CPU and for our rights, because we are not like any other group. It doesn't matter what you think about provinces, because a Canadian is a Canadian across the country. You are a shareholder of the whole enchilada. And so are the Indigenous nations and what they have on their side as well. So why would we want to give that up? Only an idiot would want to give that up. Okay? Because eventually the hammer is going to come down, and those who are corrupt will get their fingers slapped. Okay? So I haven't been to bed. I'm on, I think, my fourth win right now. And I was wondering why I was feeling sick this afternoon, but it's because I've been at the computer. I think I got up once inside of 6 hours away from the computer with the work that needs to be done here. And then I get so embedded into everything that I totally lose track of time and everything around me. So anyways, I'm a little shaky all inside. I need to get some sleep. But anyways, you know, um, I have somebody says, "Oh, get me there." No, I don't need anybody else at my place. Okay, what I need is people to go into their communities, go and get the members, let the word out, make sure that the parliamentarians know about what we're doing. Let's scare the pants right off of them, and we can do that. Okay. So anyways, that's the help that I need, is for everybody to go into their communities, get this done. Make your own flyers, do stuff that doesn't cost you any money for that. Go to the website canadianreferendum.ca, put that on your phone, send it to all of your contacts, get everybody to sign off their phones and their iPads and everything else, and we can get this done, people. You don't even need to leave your home, okay, to sign. So everybody who signed the Convention of Consent is going to be added to that, but I can't add it now. I can only add it at the end, because what we're trying to do now is clean up this government and to force the Governor General. This is why I had to create the referendum the way that it's created. Okay. And that's a referendum between we, the people. The government has no business into it. Can't complain about it. But we need the signatures to make it count, and the loud voices. So I'm going to, before I get sick again, I'm going to let you go with that. But I want to show you that, yes, we can go out 2024 with a big bang, and we're standing in our rights, and we're going to make sure that every parliamentarian by the 2nd of January will all know about the CPU and the Canadian referendum of the people as the collective head of state. We need to march for that. We need to fight for that. We need to stand for that, because the future generations of this country are all shareholders as well. Okay. So the only way to be truly free is for the people to become the head of state and not accept anything less. Mind you, they'll say, "Oh, we can put you head of state without power." No, we want the power. Okay. Not the power to all the time, but we'll need to be able to figure all that out. It's already been figured out anyways before in other instances. And yes, it can work, but we need to make it work if we want it. And like I said, freedom isn't free. It'll take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and devotion, and to make sure that in the end we can turn taxation into dividends. And then we get, the minute that we take back this country, our natural resources come back to the people. So please read the information, see what it says, learn about it, learn about your rights. What do those rights mean? Okay. And then you'll understand why we've been fighting for this. No laws prior to 1960 matter. Nothing prior to any of that. It doesn't matter who had what power, provinces, the feds, whatever. We have the power since 1960. Let's get her done. Okay. So love yous all. Have a very happy New Year's Eve, and an even better 2025, start of the day tomorrow, well, at midnight, into 2025, and we can make this our year. Every year I keep saying that, but this year, the timing couldn't be more perfect than now to set the government straight, get rid of Trudeau by pressuring King Charles and the Governor General, and they have the power to take him out. It's enough fooling around. And if they don't, then they could be looking at charges themselves. Okay? So good night, everybody. Love yous. I'm going to go to bed. First, put my PJs on and then just crash for as long as I can. But usually after a few hours, I'm back up again anyway. So hopefully I'll stay asleep for at least 4. So, and then it's back to work. Okay? So love yous all. Have one heck of a happy New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and New Year life. Bye-bye.